Exposed. I was fired publicly. But in 10 minutes I discovered an incredible life-changing secret. Jacob sat rigid in the conference room, the weight of the world compressing his chest. It was the annual meeting at the plant, a place where he had poured every ounce of sweat and loyalty for over a decade, a job he believed would secure a bright future for his wife, Emily, and their 2 kids. But when the boss's voice took on a chilling tone, everything shattered. "Jacob," he said, barely meeting Jacob's eyes, "we have to let you go." Those words echoed around the room, punctuated by shocked gasps from coworkers who once admired him. The laughter and pride he'd felt just moments before morphed into a deep pit of shame. Whispers danced in the air as Jacob stumbled out of the building, feeling the heat of judgment like a spotlight on his back. That night, the heaviness didn't lift. At home the walls felt like they were closing in. Emily tried to remain the steady rock he needed, but he could see the suffocating worry pooling in her eyes. Their dreams, buying a bigger house, a family vacation, seemed to slip through their fingers like sand. Jacob felt lost, trapped in a whirlwind of doubt. How could he provide for them now? The principles his grandfather instilled about hard work and integrity felt like a cruel joke. As he sat in silence after the kids went to bed, a flicker of hope emerged. Returning to his attic, he discovered an old journal, a time-worn leather cover, full of heartfelt wisdom. Each page radiated the love and values his grandfather had championed. With each line, memories rushed back, reigniting the spark of determination within him. Fueled by that wisdom, Jacob decided to take a leap. "I'm going to start a job skills initiative," he declared to anyone willing to listen. Rounding up neighbors and friends, he felt a sense of community stirring, something the economic struggles had dulled. Yet doubts lingered in the air like storm clouds. Could a guy like him really lead an effort aimed at transforming lives? Whispers filled the streets, maybe he was just a laid-off factory worker after all. Just when his spirit teetered close to despair, fate intervened. The very company that fired him reached out, intrigued by the positive impact his initiative was having. Jacob felt a visceral mix of pride and resentment swirl within. This was bigger than anger. It was about respect, dignity, about proving that every person mattered. As he stood before the board members, the same faces that had dismissed him, he felt a rush of indignation rise in his chest. The energy shifted in the room. It was more than just a confrontation. Jacob gathered his strength. "I'm not just here for myself," he said, each word heavy with purpose. "I'm here for every overlooked person in this community." Moments of silence echoed in the room, and Jacob could almost hear the pounding of his heart against the stillness. This was his moment to reclaim what had been stripped away. He wasn't just fighting for his job. He was fighting for every soul that felt they didn't belong. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the room held its breath, Jacob stood at a crossroads. Could he mend the fabric of a community frayed by doubt and despair? The air was thick with unspoken connections, a unity waiting to be forged. With his heart pounding louder than before, Jacob faced an uncertain future, one that might redefine what success truly meant. Would he rise to the occasion or falter once more? The atmosphere in the boardroom was electric, crackling with tension as Jacob's gaze swept across the faces that had once held authority over him. The stony silence pressed in, every second stretching out like an eternity. Breathing deeply, he sought to harness the emotions swirling within: fear, anger, hope, and transform them into something powerful. "Change starts here," Jacob continued, his voice steadying as he spoke. "We're all in this together. We need to look beyond profit margins and examine the lives that hang in the balance." The board members shifted slightly, each one a sea of cautious expressions. Were they ready to listen? He could sense the walls of skepticism, but he was determined to break through. He shared stories of workers affected by layoffs, families denying themselves necessities, and dreams deferred. Each tale resonated like a drumbeat, echoing in the hearts of those seated before him. Their eyes began to flicker with recognition, not just of the statistics he rattled off, but of the humanity behind them. Suddenly, a woman in the back spoke up. "You're right, Jacob. We've lost sight of the people. I didn't think it mattered." Her voice trembled but had a raw strength. It sparked something in others, faces slowly lighting up with a sense of understanding. A man beside her nodded, glancing at Jacob. "We've been too focused on the bottom line. It's time we invest in our community again," he said, conviction brewing in his voice. Encouraged, Jacob pressed on. "I'm asking for your support, not just for me, but for everyone in this room, and those we've let down. Let us start offering job training mentorship programs. Let us show that we care about more than just profit." As he spoke, Jacob could feel the energy shifting. Ideas began to flow. Support from both the board and local community seemed within reach. Perhaps they would realize that he wasn't just a casualty of corporate decisions, but a torchbearer of possibility. Later that day, as he exited the building, Jacob felt lighter. He didn't know what success would look like, or whether those same faces would support his initiative long-term, but he no longer felt the weight of doubt crushing him. If anything, determination replaced it, a power surging through him like a river breaking free from a dam. When he returned home, the first thing he noticed was Emily sitting at the kitchen table, her brow furrowed with worry. He pulled in a breath, the remnants of their argument echoing in his mind. "You need to earn a paycheck now, Jacob. We can't keep surviving like this," she'd insisted. But he smiled, showing a spark of hope. "Today was a good day, Em. I think things might change." She looked at him, eyes searching, a flicker of hope sparking there. "What do you mean?" "I pitched the initiative to the board, and I think there's a chance they'll support it," Jacob shared. A cautious smile formed on Emily's lips, and for a moment, the doubts faded into the background. But just as peace settled, his phone buzzed a message from one of his former colleagues. It was a link to an article, the headline bright and blaring. "Company announces major layoffs." Jacob's heart dropped. But his initial shock was quickly replaced by a burning resolve. Whatever was coming, he would not falter this time. As he scrolled through the comments of disbelief, Jacob's mind raced with the implications. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everyone. What would they all do if faced with the same fate he had endured? How could he lead them, protect them? The path before him had just become steeper, but he was ready to climb. And as he glanced at Emily, who still wore that cautious hope, he knew that their journey was far from over. If the challenge was immense, then so would be the courage required to meet it. Could Jacob rally not just his community, but the shattered dreams of his former co-workers? Would he become the leader they needed as turmoil threatened to strike once again? In that awkward moment of anticipation, he felt the stirrings of a deeper transformation waiting to unfold. The next morning, Jacob woke up before the sun, a calm determination anchoring him. The darkness outside felt like a blanket, wrapping around the uncertainty he faced. He could hear Emily stirring in the kitchen, making coffee, the rich aroma drifting through the house. He pulled on his shirt, the fabric slightly wrinkled from the night before, but he didn't care. Today was a new day, and he could feel the energy buzzing just beneath the surface as he joined Emily. She offered him a warm smile, hoping perhaps that this was the day things would change. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft, but laced with an undercurrent of anxiety. "I will be," Jacob replied, determination lighting his eyes. "We have to figure out our next steps. I need to talk to everyone today, keep the lines of communication open." "Do you think they'll listen?" she questioned, uncertainty creeping into her words. "I won't stop trying until they do," Jacob stated, the thought sparking a fire in him. He was ready for the challenge and to rally support not just for himself, but for those who didn't have voices. He quickly jotted down notes, ideas swirling like leaves in a gust of wind. The day was a blur, filled with meetings, calls, and endless brainstorming sessions. Jacob reached out to former colleagues and friends, gathering stories, pulling together a narrative that was real and heartfelt. It wasn't just about business anymore, it was about people. Text messages pinged with words of encouragement, and with each one he felt the weight of the world lift just a little more. By afternoon, Jacob found himself standing in front of a small group of employees who had also been affected. They sat around a conference table, filled with apprehension and fear. Jacob could see it in their eyes, the same concern he'd felt just a few days prior. He took a deep breath and spoke, pouring his heart into every word. He shared what he proposed to the board. "I want us to create a support network," he explained. "We have to look out for each other. If layoffs are happening, we need to figure out how to support those affected. Share job leads. Advocate for one another." He saw a flicker of hope ignite in the room, faces shifting from despair to guarded curiosity. Then one woman spoke up. "But how do we start?" Her question hung in the air, the answer eluding even Jacob for a moment. Together, he replied simply, "We are stronger when we stand united. Let us start with small steps. We can set up a community group, gather job leads, share resources. We can even start a fundraiser to help with immediate expenses." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, and Jacob felt a rush of exhilaration. As they discussed ideas, laughter began to join in with the anxious chatter. They shared fears, stories, and solutions. Jacob encouraged everyone to vocalize their concerns, and he relished the feeling of a unified front forming before him. That evening after the meeting, Jacob received a text from a former employee, someone whom he had already considered a friend. "I just read the article about layoffs. Do you need help? I know so many connections." His heart raced. Maybe, just maybe, support was building. But as he was about to share this newfound optimism with Emily, his phone buzzed again. This time a notification for a meeting request on the company calendar, an emergency board meeting scheduled for tomorrow. An uneasy feeling washed over him. What were they planning now? Would this be another blow? Jacob took a deep breath, knowing it was time to confront the storm head-on. Could he strengthen the bonds he was forming with his community? Would they be enough to withstand whatever the board had in store? As he looked into Emily's hopeful eyes, he pondered the power of unity and what it might mean for their fragile future. Jacob couldn't shake the feeling of dread as he lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling. The clock ticked slowly, each sound amplifying the chaos in his mind. He replayed the day over and over again, the words of support from his colleagues, the laughter that had briefly broken the tension. It felt like building a sandcastle, only to have a wave threaten to wash it away. Emily was already asleep next to him, her face peaceful in the gentle light. He wanted to reach out to her, to share his fears, but he didn't want to burden her. She had her own worries too. Tomorrow could change everything. When he finally drifted off, dreams twisted with anxiety, faces of friends, colleagues, and the looming presence of the board. He awoke breathless in the early hours, the early morning chill stealing under the covers. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, and for a moment the ground felt unsteady. Today was the day. After they had coffee, Emily took his hand, squeezing it gently. "Whatever happens today," she said, her eyes steady, "we face it together." "I know," Jacob replied, appreciating her strength. "Just, everything is at stake." Her hope felt like a lifeline, but it also intensified his anxiety. The drive to work was quiet, each minute stretching like an eternity. He pulled into the parking lot and saw cars he recognized. It was small comfort in the storm brewing inside him. Guided by instinct, he headed to the boardroom where the meeting was set. The fluorescent lights reflected off the polished table, amplifying the stark atmosphere. As he sat down, he scanned the faces around him. Some appeared calm, maybe even indifferent, but others were tense. Lines of worry etched deep into their expressions. The chairperson called the meeting to order, and everyone fell silent. "Thank you for coming on short notice," the chairperson began. "We're here to discuss the current status of our workforce. As you know, significant decisions need to be made." Jacob's heart raced. Was this the moment they were going to announce even more layoffs? As they presented numbers, reports, and the dire state of affairs, the weight in his chest grew heavier. His mind raced with thoughts on how disheartening this was for everyone, including those who had just begun lending their support. Then something unexpected happened. A voice broke through the tension. It was Melissa, a woman from marketing. "How can we trust that communication will get better? How do we know the employees are being taken care of?" The board's discomfort was palpable, and Jacob couldn't help noticing the flicker of resentment in some members' eyes. That's when he decided to speak. "I understand the need for budget cuts," he started, keeping his voice steady, "but if we lose what little we have left in terms of morale and community, what's the point?" Heads turned toward him, surprised. "We've already started connecting with the team, creating a support network to help those affected," Jacob continued, the passion in his voice rising. But we need your help to make this work. You have to believe that caring for your employees matters. For a moment it felt like time stood still. The board exchanged glances, questions hanging in the air. Then, to his surprise, the chairperson nodded. We appreciate your feedback, Jacob. This is something we'll take into consideration. A glimmer of hope sparked inside him. It was only a small shift, but it was something. As he left the meeting, a renewed strength pushed him forward. Outside, Emily stood waiting, uncertainty written all over her face. What happened? She asked with bated breath. They listened, Jacob said, the weight of the day beginning to feel lighter. But there's still a long way to go. As they walked to the car, he suddenly felt a ping on his phone, a news alert about the company's layoffs and restructuring being leaked online. Jacob's heart sank as he read the headline. What if this formed chaos rather than support? What would it mean for what they had just built? The moment he looked at Emily, he knew they were standing on the edge of a new crisis. What more could they uncover, and how could they turn the tide before it crashed down on them? The weight of the news alert seemed to hang in the air, thick and suffocating. Jacob's thumb hovered over the screen as he replayed the words in his mind. Layoffs, restructuring. It felt like a punch in the gut. He glanced at Emily, whose brows knitted tightly as she read the flicker of his expression. What does it say? She pressed, worry creeping into her voice. It's bad. They've leaked details about the layoffs. Our company is in deeper trouble than we thought, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily's eyes widened, and for a moment, there was a shared silence between them, a chasm filled with unspoken fears and uncertainties. They had just started to feel some hope, yet this news threatened to sweep it all away. They can't just cut us like that, can they? She asked, clutching his hand tighter. I don't know. Jacob paused, the harsh fluorescent lights of the parking lot cutting through his thoughts. His mind raced. The rumblings of layoffs weren't just numbers. They were lives, friendships, futures. With a determined breath, Jacob shoved the phone into his pocket. We can't let this happen without fighting back. People need to know the truth. We need to unite everyone before it's too late. Emily gave him a searching look. What do you mean? I mean, we can't just sit back. We need to organize, get everyone together. If it's already out there, we can't let it destroy the team spirit we tried to build. Even if it feels like we're hanging by a thread. His heart pulsed with renewed urgency. Emily nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Okay, so where do we start? Jacob took a deep breath. First, I need to talk to Melissa and a few others. If they're willing, we can set up a meeting tonight. We need a plan, a way to tell the board that we're united. As they drove home, Emily's hand remained on his, a comforting anchor in the storm brewing outside. The streets blurred past them, the world carrying on as if everything was normal. But Jacob knew that today had changed everything. They arrived at their apartment, and as soon as they stepped inside, Jacob's phone buzzed again with messages from colleagues. Group texts filled with fear, anger, and uncertainty. He felt the need to respond, to reassure them that they were not alone in this struggle. He opened the group chat, fingers trembling slightly as he began typing. Hey everyone. I know the news is upsetting, but we can make our voices heard. Let us meet tonight to discuss what we can do together. This is not just about survival. It's about showing we care about each other. As he hit send, a rush of adrenaline coursed through him. It felt right, like setting a spark to dry leaves. But deep down, the thought of how the board might react loomed like a shadow. Would they see this as defiance? Emily stood behind him, reading over his shoulder. I think that's perfect, she said softly. You're giving them hope. Hope, Jacob echoed, the word hanging between them. Just then a notification popped up on his screen. Another alert had come through, but not from the group. It was an email regarding the upcoming quarterly meeting supposedly to address the layoffs. Wait, this is odd, he murmured, eyes widening as he scanned the details. There was a hint of something in the message, a mention of changes to leadership as well. What is it? Emily leaned closer. Changes. I think there's more to this than we know. This could be bigger. His heart raced, a mix of dread and curiosity swirling inside him. What kind of changes were afoot and why the secrecy? Emily, we need to dig deeper. There's something here, and if we can uncover it, maybe we can turn this around. As they locked eyes, a shared determination forged between them. They were allies against an unseen threat. But the biggest question remained. Would they have enough time to expose the truth before the storm hit? The clock was ticking, and they could feel it. As night fell, Jacob and Emily arranged chairs in their small living room, transforming it into an impromptu meeting space. The cluttered space felt like a sanctuary, shields against the rising tide of uncertainty. Jacob glanced at Emily as she set out snacks, her fingers moving deftly through the chaos of worry, a hint of normalcy amidst the storm swirling around them. The doorbell rang, startling both of them. Jacob straightened, suddenly aware of the gravity of what they were trying to do. Emily's eyes sparkled with a mix of apprehension and courage. "Here we go," she whispered, bracing herself as Jacob swung the door open. Melissa was the first to arrive, her face etched with concern but also determination. "Hey, I got your message," she said, stepping inside. "I think a lot of us are feeling the same way." One by one their colleagues filtered in. Each face bore a blend of disbelief and defiance. Jacob couldn't help but feel buoyed by their presence. It was as if the collective anxiety began to morph into a tangible force, something they could wield together. The atmosphere shifted subtly but profoundly, as they plopped down in the circle of chairs. "Thanks for coming, everyone," Jacob began, his voice steadying with purpose. "I know this news has shaken us all, but if we combine our voices we can make them listen." "What about the repercussions?" someone asked from the back, a hint of worry cracking their resolve. Emily chimed in, "We stand a better chance together than alone. If we fight now, we can protect not just our jobs but the spirit of this team. We have to show that we care for each other." Jacob nodded, glancing around at each person, their expressions slowly transforming from fear to a spark of solidarity. "What if we drafted a letter addressed to the board? A letter that's signed by everyone? We can emphasize our commitment, our productivity, and the value we bring." "But," Melissa interjected, "we could get in trouble for that. Management may see this as just stirring the pot." "We only have power in numbers," Jacob replied, a fierce energy coursing through him. "If we don't speak up now, we risk losing everything we've worked for." As the night unfolded, ideas flew back and forth. They discussed strategies, planned actions, and built hope brick by brick. With every idea shared, Jacob's heart swelled. It felt like he was coaxing fire into life with each flicker of commitment that sparked among his colleagues. In the midst of their brainstorming, Jacob's phone buzzed once more. The group chat filled with messages began to drown out the conversation around him. Seeing the anxious chatter among coworkers, Jacob's stomach dropped. "Wait, something's happening. I need to respond," he murmured. His fingers flew over the screen. "Stay strong, everyone. We're meeting tonight. Let them know we're not afraid." The room quieted, each pair of eyes fixed on him. The solidarity felt palpable, almost electric. Then he glanced at the news alert that had surfaced alongside the messages, and his heart nearly stopped. "More changes. It's all over the news," he exclaimed, voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and mounting fear. "They're saying layoffs are just the beginning. There are rumors of a buyout and new leadership coming in. What does that mean for us?" Emily asked, her breath hitching. Jacob shook his head, trying to suppress rising panic. "I don't know. But it could explain the secrecy. We need to find out who's behind this and why." Murmurs of dread swept across the room. The realization that this was bigger than they anticipated hit them like a cold wave. "Okay, we start digging," Jacob declared, his eyes flashing with determination. "But we need to keep our heads down while we figure this out. Timing is everything." Suddenly, the weight of the meeting felt even heavier. They were no longer just fighting for their jobs. They were diving headfirst into a battle that could shake the very foundation of their working lives. As the meeting adjourned, Jacob and Emily stood together, hearts pounding with adrenaline and fear of what lay ahead. "We can't let this happen without a fight," he whispered, squeezing her hand. But deep inside, Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of a precipice. Would they have the strength to face the truth, no matter how deep it ran? The truth loomed on the horizon, an unknown danger waiting to be uncovered. As they were about to step into the unknown, a thought struck him with chilling clarity. What if the truth wasn't just about their jobs, but something far more sinister? The next day dawned gray. A heavy blanket of clouds hung just above the city like a premonition. Jacob sat at his desk staring blankly at the screen, the words blurring into a haze. A knot tightened in his stomach as he thought about the meeting. He could feel the weight of their collective anxiety in the air, thick and suffocating. Emily approached, her presence like a small flame flickering against the gloom. "You all right?" she asked softly, concern etched in her features. "I don't know," Jacob admitted, shaking his head. "What if we're too late? What if they've already made their decisions? Then we make them reconsider," she replied, a fierce determination sparking in her eyes. "We fight. Together." The room was a whirl of hushed conversations, each colleague trying to piece together what had happened in the past days. Jacob felt their uncertainty, but beneath it, he also sensed a fragile thread of resolve weaving them together. "Listen up, everyone," Jacob called. The chatter faded, and all eyes turned towards him. "We need a plan. We know changes are coming, but we can't let fear paralyze us. Let us gather information. Who's behind this? Why now? We need to uncover the truth. What if the truth puts a target on our backs?" One colleague voiced, and a cacophony of worries rippled through the group. "Sometimes we have to take risks," Emily chimed in, stepping closer to Jacob. "If we stay silent, we allow them to control our fate." The room buzzed with tension. Jacob watched their faces, unsure but aware that hope was teetering on the edge, ready to take form. "Let us split into teams," he suggested, feeling the surge of adrenaline course through him. One group to dig into the company's financial reports, another to talk to former employees if we can find them. We may uncover some patterns that connect the dots. A mix of apprehension and excitement electrified the air, and slowly, nods of agreement spread among them. The meeting transformed from a fear-fueled gathering into one of action and unity. They all moved with renewed purpose, buzzing with possibilities. As the day unfolded, groups formed and scattered. Jacob and Emily found a quiet corner, determined to search through countless emails and reports that had piled up over the years. Screen after screen flickered with data that made Jacob's head spin, but they pushed through the fatigue, knowing that every click could bring them closer to the truth. Suddenly, Emily froze. Her eyes widened as she scrolled down a document. "Jacob, look at this." He leaned closer, his heart racing. The screen flashed with alarming figures, an annual report that hinted at significant financial instability. But more distressingly, there were references to something called a strategic overhaul. "What does that mean?" Jacob asked, anxiety creeping back in. Emily continued reading, her brow furrowed. "It looks like they're planning major changes, not just layoffs. They're shifting focus entirely. Something about innovation? Is that good or bad?" "I don't know," she said, voice shaking slightly. "But it feels like we're standing on the edge of a cliff, Jacob. If they're overhauling everything, our jobs are at stake." Jacob felt the weight of all they had uncovered pressing down on him like lead. The uncertainty loomed larger than before, and with it, the question that echoed in the back of his mind. What deep-rooted schemes lurked beneath the surface? "We need to find out more," he urged. "We can't stop now. If we're going to fight back, we need all the information we can get." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then let us dig deeper. We're not just uncovering the company's secrets. We're fighting for ourselves." As they prepared to dive back into the abyss of information, a chilling thought struck Jacob. What if they weren't just uncovering corporate greed, but something that could shake their entire community? The clock ticked, and with every passing moment, they sensed they were spiraling deeper into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Were they ready to confront whatever lay ahead? The following hours were a blur of frantic digging and rising tension. Jacob and Emily pored over file after file, fighting back fatigue with sheer determination. The flicker of the computer screens cast a blue light in the otherwise dim room, mirroring the urgency that pulsed between them. With every piece they uncovered, the stakes only seemed to climb higher. "Here!" Emily exclaimed again, breaking the suffocating silence. "Look at this projected budget plan." She scrolled down, highlighting a chart. They've allocated millions toward technology upgrades, but nothing for employee training. Jacob felt his stomach twist. So, they don't plan to invest in people, just in machines? That can't be a good sign. Emily shook her head, eyes wide. "It's like they're planning to replace us, not improve our roles. This overhaul is really code for cutting costs by cutting jobs." He leaned back, the realization crashing over him like a wave. If that's the plan, we need to warn everyone. We can't let them blindside us. There's too much at stake. Tension tightened in the room as they shared their thoughts aloud. They needed a strategy to mobilize their coworkers, To unite them against an unseen threat that was creeping into their lives without any warning. Can we set up a meeting? Jacob suggested, heart thumping. If we present this information to everyone, maybe we can rally them to fight back, Emily finished, her voice filled with a new sense of purpose. But it won't be easy. There are those who will just want to bury their heads in the sand. Jacob nodded, acutely aware of the naysayers in their midst. We'll have to keep it under wraps until we can confirm everything. The last thing we need is to panic anyone prematurely. As they turned back to the files, a frantic tap came from the door. It was their colleague, Mark, with a look of shock painted across his face. Guys, have you seen the memo? They're holding a staff meeting in an hour. They say it's urgent. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. Urgent? What do you think that means? I don't know, but I doubt it's good news, Mark said, glancing nervously at Emily. Do you think they already know we've been looking into this? We have to be careful, Jacob warned. They can't know we're onto them yet. But we need to find a way to use this meeting. What if we confront them directly? Mark said, with a hint of stubborn bravery in his voice. Expose what we've found right in front of everyone? No. Emily interjected, her eyes wide with urgency. We can't go in there guns blazing. They'll try to intimidate us. We need to be smarter than that. Jacob felt the weight of this moment pressing on him. Decisions had never seemed so critical. Everything they had found could potentially awaken their colleagues to the reality of their situation, or it could send them spiraling into silence and submission as they rushed to compile their findings. Every second felt like it was stacked against them. Jacob's mind was a dizzying whirl of plans and counterplans. Both anticipation and dread hung heavy in the air. Would they be able to voice their concerns before it was too late? Or would this meeting seal their fate? The minutes ticked away, and with each passing moment, the uncertainty grew. He could feel the pulse of his resolve beating steadily, but would it be enough? And then, just as they gathered their papers to leave, Emily's phone buzzed. She stared at it in disbelief, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. It's from Sarah, she said breathlessly. They have a surprise announcement and someone is getting fired today. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. A new wave of anxiety washed over him. Who could it be? Do you think it could be? Mark started, but his voice trailed off, leaving a chasm of uncertainty. Jacob felt his heart race. They were on the brink of something so much bigger than they had anticipated. What revelations awaited them? Would they stand firm together, or would fear fracture their courage? As the three of them exchanged worried glances, one thing was clear: nothing would prepare them for what was about to unfold. Would they be able to decipher the truth before someone paid the ultimate price? As the small crowd of employees gathered in the conference room, Jacob could feel the tension thick in the air. Murmurs floated around him, gossip swirling about the upcoming announcement. Faces were a mix of apprehension and disbelief. Jacob exchanged a glance with Emily, who looked as pale as he felt. Are we ready? He whispered, clutching the stack of papers. Emily nodded slowly, her resolve matching his own, but her fingers trembled slightly. The executives filed in, a stark contrast in crisp suits, their polished appearances amplifying the sense of dread. Jacob tried to steady his racing heart, each thud mirroring the fear gripping his chest. The meeting began with a few corporate pleasantries, words flowing like syrup, slow and sticky. But Jacob knew they were just stalling. The ultimatum they feared was coming. Then the head of human resources, Ms. Logan, stepped to the front. Her expression remained neutral, not a flicker of emotion betrayed the weight of the news she was about to deliver. Jacob leaned forward, trying to catch every detail. Thank you for being here on such short notice, Ms. Logan started, her voice calm yet chilling. Today we undertake a significant shift in our approach to company growth. She paused, letting the words hang in the air, which only served to heighten the nervous atmosphere. And as part of this shift, we regret to inform you that we are letting go of one of our employees to make room for innovation and evolution within our teams. Electric whispers filled the room as murmurs cascaded around them. Jacob exchanged a quick look with Emily. This was the moment they braced for. The moment they had desperately wanted to face with strength and togetherness. Lisa Jensen, please come forward, Ms. Logan called, her voice turning sharper. The room fell silent as Lisa stepped up, her professional demeanor betraying nothing. Jacob felt sick. He hadn't expected to see someone he respected face this punishment. Lisa has been an invaluable contributor to our team. However, due to restructuring, we must part ways. We wish her the best in her future endeavors." Lisa's face remained blank as she accepted the news. There was no plea for fairness, no tears shed. Instead, her lips pursed tight, a signal that she would not go down quietly. As Ms. Logan concluded, Lisa's gaze swept the room, catching Jacob's eye. What he saw in her expression sent ice through his veins, defiance mixed with sorrow. "And now," Ms. Logan continued without missing a beat, "we can pivot toward our exciting new initiatives." But Jacob's mind spiraled, wrestling with the idea that this could easily be him, or someone else in the room. He had to act, but how? His eyes flitted back to Emily, whose worry mirrored his own. The meeting was trailing into platitudes about company growth and technology. Jacob had reached his breaking point. "Wait," he called out, surprising even himself. "Can we talk about the budget? The lack of training? This isn't just about one person, it's about all of us." Silence flooded the room. All eyes shifted toward him. Brief hesitation danced in Jacob's heart, but then the urge to fight for their team surged inside him to mess. Logan's brows knitted together. "Jacob, we are here to share progressive changes, not to discuss budget concerns now." But he pushed on, momentum building. "But those changes affect us. If we aren't being trained and empowered, who are these changes really helping?" Emily's strong voice joined his. "We deserve to have a say in how our futures are shaped. We can't just accept changes that threaten our livelihoods." Swallowing hard, Jacob prepared himself for the backlash. He could feel the unease, the battle lines being drawn. Among the crowd, he caught a glimpse of Mark, his eyes flicking back and forth as if weighing risk. What had begun as a daunting announcement transformed into something else. As their voices echoed, emboldened by each other's presence, their fears began to intertwine. "Jacob, Emily, you both need to understand this decision was for the betterment of the company. We will be implementing changes that will lead us into a more efficient future." Ms. Logan shot back, but even her tone faltered as resistance rippled through the crowd. But as Jacob looked around the room, he saw tiny sparks of agreement. Employees steeped in uncertainty began to nod, and murmurs of support filled the room. Just as Jacob felt hope creep in, the door opened again. This time it was Sarah, the intern who had quickly become a friend. She stepped forward, urgency in her eyes. "I just overheard something you all need to know." All heads turned toward her, and just like that, a collective breath held in unison. What did Sarah overhear? And how could it change the course of their fight? Jacob's heart raced anew, caught between fear and hope. The battle was only just beginning, and now the stakes had climbed higher than he could have imagined. As Sarah stood frozen, the room buzzed with anticipation. The tension was palpable, a tightly wound spring ready to uncoil. Jacob felt his heart pound in rhythm with the silent chant of hope slowly gathering momentum. "Sarah, what did you hear?" Jacob pressed, eager to unearth the truth. She squared her shoulders, a mix of fear and determination brimming in her eyes. "It's about the layoffs and that strategic overhaul they keep mentioning. I heard a couple of execs talking. They believe this is more than just restructuring. It's a complete shift, aiming to replace us with outsourced talent. They want to cut costs at our expense." The murmurs in the room swelled, disbelief shimmering in the air. Jacob glanced at Emily, who looked as alarmed as he felt. The executives were exchanging confused glances, obviously rattled. "We need to address these rumors. This is not the time for speculation," Ms. Logan insisted, her voice shaky as the conviction of her earlier words began to waver. Jacob seized the moment. "These rumors are hard truths for many of us. We're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. We are people with families and dreams. If you proceed without transparency, you are betraying us all." The courage in his voice clawed its way up through fear, compelling those around him to lean forward, their attention fixated on him rather than the suits at the front. "We all deserve clarity," Emily added, her tone fierce, tearing through the fog of uncertainty that had settled like a weight over their heads. "Every employee here matters. You say innovation means replacing us? You're doing it all wrong." As tension crackled, Jacob felt a swell of resolve blossom. "Sarah's news tells us we can't stay silent. We need to fight for our roles. This room is packed with talent, ideas, and passion. We can't let that be thrown away for a cheaper alternative." If you're serious about innovation, you need to invest in us, not discard us. Excitement sizzled through the crowd as others stood up, emboldened to voice their shared fears. Lisa, standing at the edge, stepped forward. We're scared, yes. But we're not just afraid of losing our jobs. We're scared of losing our community. Time hung heavy, yet the air bristled with hope as more voices joined in. Colleagues began to share their stories, their struggles to keep the balance at home while fearing layoffs. It was powerful and raw. Jacob's heart soared. These were the stories that mattered, the voices that should never be silenced. Logan attempted to regain control, but the tide had turned. Enough, she finally snapped, but Jacob shot back. No, it's just starting. We can be your innovation. Train us, equip us. We're ready to fight for this company and our roles. But you have to meet us halfway. The room hummed with energy as people began to stand together, a collective tapestry of voices unlikely and dissonant, yet very much united. Then Jacob felt a gentle hand on his arm. It was Sarah. It's not just the board that wants change. We can take this fight to the community. Show them we matter, that we won't just fade into silence. Her suggestion struck a chord. Yes, let us mobilize. A community rally, a petition, stories uploaded as videos. Let the world know what's happening. Jacob spoke, feeling the fire within him blaze brighter. They can't ignore us if we show them our strength. With newfound energy, Jacob and Emily coordinated plans that afternoon, gathering lists of interested employees. They connected with local media. If the company wouldn't listen, perhaps the public could. They made phone calls, set up meetings in small cafes, and arranged gatherings. Everyone had something to contribute. Every story mattered. And as the days passed, hope blossomed. The community rallied behind them. Workers rallied in front of the plant with signs. Some fought back tears as they spoke, and others found their voices for the very first time. Finally, the board responded. They called for yet another meeting, but this time the employees were ready. Jacob stood at the front of the room alongside Emily, colleagues lined behind them. Today isn't about layoffs. It's about understanding our worth, Jacob declared, a steady calm drifting through the air. We are not just factory workers. We provide life to this plant and our community. A board member tried to speak, but Jacob raised his hand. No more words. You need to listen. He turned to everyone behind him. They can't ignore this strength. Let us remind them we care, that we desire to thrive together. The energy exploded as colleagues cheered. Fists in the air, worn smiles morphing into gleaming enthusiasm. Mr. Davis, the CEO, finally stood and spoke. We hear you, really hear you. It's time we redirected our focus. We need a workforce who feels secure. We'll implement training programs, bring in mentorship, and ensure that your roles don't become obsolete. A wave of disbelief washed over the employees, merging into joy. The battle wasn't over, but in this moment, Jacob felt hope lift their spirits like a dance. A promise that their voices had been heard as they streamed out of the boardroom, tears glimmering in eyes that once held despair. Jacob and Emily walked side by side, renewed certainty sparking between them. Their journey had transformed their community from fear to courage, forging an unbreakable bond where unity thrived. They might still face obstacles, but hope had woven its tapestry, uniting them tighter than before. And as they stepped into the sunlight, Jacob softened, realizing that every ending is simply a new beginning. Now was the time for healing, rebuilding, and reaching for a future where every voice mattered, where dreams could unfold without fear of being diminished. This was victory. You need to subscribe now to catch the next thrilling chapter of transformation. Leave a like now to support the journey and feed the algorithm. Comment down below how this story resonated with you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to feel this inspiration. Your support matters in spreading the light.